With the current storm of fake news and full-on resistance to truth-telling, we need thoughtfully conceived and creatively designed sources of information that serve as trustworthy strongholds of knowledge, so that the destructive effects of silenced histories can be unraveled and undone. Greenwood Rising History Center, which will officially open on August 4th, 2021, exists in constructive response to the intentional silencing of the 1921 Greenwood Massacre and the intentional silencing of the neighborhood's second renaissance after the massacre, which, as W.E.B. Du Bois wrote after a visit there, Black Tulsa is a happy city. It has new clothes. It is young and gay and strong. 5 little years ago, fire and blood and robbery leveled it to the ground. Scars are there, but the city is impudent and noisy. It believes in itself. Thank God for the grit of Black Tulsa. By the 50s and the 60s, Greenwood had blossomed into one of the most successful Black neighborhoods in the country. At its height, Black business owners operated 40 grocery stores and dozens of other businesses across the mixed-use 35-block community. And then it was demolished again. But it wasn't more bloodshed this time that brought the destruction. It was urban renewal. In the 60s, a slow decline began. The reasons were several and complicated. Like the Bronx during the same decade, urban renewal targeted Black and immigrant neighborhoods, boxing them in and ripping them apart. Greenwood was one of those targeted neighborhoods. In those days, the Black community was denied all participation in the political process at all levels, local, county, and state, and their needs were completely ignored when a decision was made to run a highway right through the Greenwood neighborhood, right through it. Demolition on Greenwood Avenue for the Interstate Highway loop began in March 1967 with zero input from Greenwood community members. It is that lack of representation and dismissal of concerns that still exists today, clearly one concrete and undeniable facet of systemic racism. A mural commemorating Black Wall Street in Tulsa is painted on the side of that elevated highway that slices through the previously revived Greenwood, wounding the community immeasurably. What remains of the neighborhood's historic prosperity is one block of Black-owned businesses and the Vernon Chapel AME Church, sandwiched between a minor league baseball field and the towering concrete of Interstate 244. To the north, vacant lots and empty buildings mark the once bustling area that has been rezoned for industrial use by the white decision makers. And so the official groundbreaking of the Greenwood Rising Museum on August 21st, 2020 was definitely an occasion worth celebrating. Right there on the corner of Greenwood and Archer. This is an artist's rendering of the building with James Baldwin's insightful quote, "Not everything can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." President Biden is the first sitting United States president to tour the Greenwood district. In his speech while he was there, Biden said, "We can't just choose to learn what we want to know and not what we should know. We should know the good, the bad, everything. That is what great nations do. They come to terms with their dark sides, and we are a great nation. The only way to build common ground is to truly repair and to rebuild. I come here to fill the silence, because in silence, wounds deepen." In the materials you've received For this stop on our tour, you will have a link to this gentleman's comments about how history was kept from the community, his community, and his sense of what the impact of that omission has had on his life. He said, "The present is shaped by what happened in the past, whether knowledge of that past has been suppressed or not. And if we are not intentional, history will repeat itself over and over again." Because I did not know about the Tulsa massacre until I was about 26 years old, for 26 years of my life, I was unable to know who I am and to know where I come from. If I had known the history, I'd have known that the massacre story doesn't just end with the killing and the destruction, but also tells the story of resilience and defiance to a system of systemic racism and oppression. He concludes by saying, "And if I understood the power of my people in the past, I'd understand the power I have within myself." One of the History Center's opening galleries, labeled Greenwood Spirit, evokes the daily life of its citizens in a kind of stage set of a barbershop, with swivel chairs, vintage news clips, and 3 holographic haircutters bantering as they work about undertipping customers, professional hopes, and the growing menace of white resentment. "People just across those tracks hate us for doing better than they do," says one of the barbers. "They will use our success to justify their hate." Here's another exhibit that helps to clarify the political, economic, and social systems of anti-Blackness in America that created the conditions for the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. You've also been given a link to information about all Black towns of Oklahoma. The all Black towns of Oklahoma represent a unique chapter in American history. Nowhere else, neither in the Deep South nor in the Far West, did so many African American men and women come together to create, occupy, and govern their own communities. From 1865 to 1920, African Americans created more than 50 identifiable towns and settlements, some still existing at the beginning of the 21st century. Black towns grew in Indian territory after the Civil War, when the former slaves and the 5 tribes settled together for mutual protection and economic security. The passage of many Jim Crow laws by the Oklahoma legislature immediately after Oklahoma became a state in 1907 caused extreme disillusionment with the infant state. Some of the African Americans relocated to Canada. Others left the country altogether and went to Africa, and others migrated to Mexico. The Greenwood Rising History Center exists to help repair the residue left by centuries-long racial trauma, and to work towards restoration by commitment to racial justice and reconciliation.